I would love to have a number. I'm not saying I will ever call you guys or anything. Like, I know there's a process, but it would just be nice to have a proper contact and everything, so I know who owns the building. Yeah, but I've only seen you guys maybe like once, and then I'm at work. So it's no, and that's fine. Where is you guys? Brantford? And I completely understand that, and I completely respect that and everything. But I don't know what you guys find out from the property management. I don't know what they tell you guys. I'm sure they do their job and everything. I'm sure we're just there. Yes, have fun with this. Have fun with this guy.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the City of Kitchener Committee of Adjustment. We're here this morning to hear applications under the Planning Act for minor variance and consents. This is a statutory public meeting, and anyone having an interest in these applications may make oral or written submissions for the committee's consideration. At some point today, the committee will render a verbal decision, and the applicant or agent will receive a copy of the committee's decision in writing by email within 10 days. Just in terms quickly to go over the procedures, in a moment I'm going to get staff to introduce the application and the staff recommendation. I will be then introducing any submissions that we have received. I will confirm for the applicant or agent whether they have received the staff report and have reviewed it. Then I will invite parties either in opposition or in favor to make an oral submission. Again, you'll be coming to that little chair over there if you want to make a submission. And if you have heard something from the previous delegate, please try to avoid repeating comments if you can. The committee is going to be asking questions throughout and may ask questions of yourself when you've made a delegation. Then we'll invite the applicant agent to make their presentation. They can obviously deal with anything they've heard. And the committee members will ask questions of you as well, if necessary. And then we will go into committee and there will be a motion. So at this point in time, I'd ask the members if there is any declaration of pecuniary interest on any of the applications. Seeing none, I just want to acknowledge for the record as well that we did get a withdrawal of an application at 92 River Road East. That was application A2269. So our first application this morning is A2023-016 at 107 Chandler Drive. Tina, if you could submit the app, or at least bring us the application.
Thank you, Chair. The first minor variance application is for a property at 107 Chandler Drive. This is an application for a reduction in the minimum parking requirement and visitor parking requirement, and this is to facilitate the creation of 5 new dwelling units in the basement of the existing multiple dwelling. Staff have reviewed the variances in light of the 4 tests of the Planning Act and finds that they meet all 4 and is recommending approval.
Agent or applicant, thank you. Have you reviewed the staff report and support the staff recommendation?
Hi there. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, city staff, members of the public. My name is Mark Donardis. I'm a planning associate from GW Planners. I'm the agent for the registered owner, and we have had an opportunity to review the staff recommendation report and the external agency comments, and we find the conditions acceptable. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, we'll get you in a couple of seconds. Anyone here in opposition to this application, I invite you to come forward. Please give your name for the record. This is 107 Chandler. Okay, seeing, oh.
Let him go first. I just got questions for me.
Right here?
This could be interesting.
Yeah, so I'm in opposition of it because of the parking issues. So, my name is Jody Stock. I live at 107 Chandler Drive.
Thank you.
And parking is an issue, and
If you could sit down and speak into the mic too, that would be beneficial. Thanks very much.
Sorry about that. First time. Yes, parking's an issue. Snow removal will be an issue for the removal of the parking. How they're going to do the units down below, I'm not sure. So,
Does the committee have any questions for the applicant or for the resident? David?
Through the chair, just a question for the resident. Are there currently parking issues on the site, just with the way the site's currently constructed?
well, there's issues with one unit with their junk and bikes that they put all over the place, so, but the snow removal is an issue.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your comments. I think I saw another hand as well. You can come forward, sir.
Hello. First off, my name is Jason Hirschberger. I'm one of the, I live at the units, Unit 2. I've only heard a little bit of what's going on because I did do some calling and I found out a little bit what's the plan for what they want to do. My only issues I have is we have laundry facilities that I was told they might want to try to save. Now, if not, then I was told then they would be putting laundry in all the units to compensate. If that's true, I have no problem with that. My only other issue I want to know about is the storage unit. I do use the storage units. I definitely have stuff stored. I want to know where to put that stuff after. Again, I think they said a little bit that they might try to move them, but again, that's what I heard when I made my phone calls. I just want to get more clarity. So I'd like to know.
Thank you very much. Members, do you have any question for the delegate? Seeing none, thank you very much. So I'm inviting the applicant agent to, perhaps you can deal with some of the comments you've heard, some of the questions. That would be great.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. So, yes, we were aware of one of the tenants' concerns about storage, and after speaking with the owner, who is here present today, and perhaps can answer some more questions about the future renovations, the intention is to try to maintain as much storage space as possible in the basement. Obviously, some space will be lost, but they're going to try to find and relocate some of that space. Likewise, the washing facilities, the intention is to try to keep it in the basement. If they can't, they will try to upgrade some of the units that have not already been upgraded with in-suite washing facilities. So this is all part of the improvement program as part of the project. The goal here is really to convert vacant storage space in the basement to units and utilize that space, which is currently not being utilized efficiently. In terms of parking, I can advise that really what we're asking for is a deficiency of five spaces. There is a bus transit stop right at the doorstep of the property. We have gone through a site plan approval application as well with the city planning staff, and there are some other upgrades that we're going to be proposing to do on site, including some outdoor passive picnic tables and seating. In fact, we're actually going to be restriping the pavement asphalt and try to improve the safety of the current parking lot. There are some spaces there right now that are probably a little bit too close to the access, and working with staff, we're working to improve the safety, put some additional signage. So this all goes to the overall package that we're trying to do here on this property.
Members, any questions for the applicant? Brian?
I do. The agent of the applicant has questions regarding where the plan here is to add 5 units, but not changing the floor plan. So all the space is coming from currently with storage units and laundry?
Through the chair, the intention is to not change anything above grade. It's all in the basement. So we're basically introducing some demising walls and window wells on the perimeter of the basement wall.
And these 5 units, if I can follow up, Chair, how big are they? And are they going to be 1-bedroom units, bachelor units? What's the plan?
Yes, through the chair, they are bachelor units. They're 1 bedrooms. Yeah.
Can I assume that they will be smaller than the units on the upper floors? Because you have 5 per floor, and you're also putting 5 in the basement.
Through the chair, I don't have the particulars about how they compare to the other units. We did submit a floor plan. They are bachelor units. I don't have the details of how they compare in terms of square footage.
A couple of the delegates we heard were raising questions about laundry and storage. Will there be laundry facilities and storage remaining?
Through the chair, the intention is to try to maintain it on the basement. My understanding is that there have been a number of units that have been turned over in the last year or 2 years, and any of those units have already had upgrades with in-suite facilities. So the goal here is to try to maintain it in the basement where possible. If that doesn't become an option, then units will be upgraded in the fullness of time with in-suite facilities. And storage, my understanding is that there is some surplus space in the main corridor of the basement. They're going to try to convert that into some storage lockers.
All right, I apologize. I'm going to backtrack a little bit here. I think we have a third person who wants to speak.
Yes.
Sorry about that. I should have recognized you first. So you want to make your comments to the committee, please? Thanks.
Okay. Going to parking, when I moved in, I was assigned parking. I have the map. Currently, my parking spot is occupied by another vehicle. I rent on a regular basis to go out of town for medical appointments, so I do need my parking spot. It may not always be in use, but I still need it. Now, the Ontario Building Code definition of extensive renovation, 11332. Extensive renovations, one where existing walls or ceilings or floor assemblies or roof assemblies are substantially removed in existing buildings, and new interior walls, ceilings, floor assemblies, and roof assemblies are installed in a building. Structural and fire-resistant elements shall be constructed in compliance with requirements of other parts. I understand the bylaw, the noise bylaw in Kitchener is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. construction time. Frequently, there is noise past those times and before those times. Part of my lease says I have to maintain the laundry facilities, and under the Ontario Building Code, laundry facilities, 93142, laundry fixtures. Laundry facilities or a space for laundry facilities shall be provided in every dwelling or grouped elsewhere in the building in a location accessible to every dwelling unit. And accessibility. Less than or equal to 15% of suites within a multi-unit residential building must be designed with basic accessibility features such as barrier-free path of travel into the kitchen, bedroom, living room, bathroom. That includes 1 and 2 bedroom suites. Accessibility must be for both types. Barrier-free path of travel. Most building types must have barrier-free path of travel throughout. There's also a requirement related to ramp dimensions and power door operators. We currently don't have any ramps at all coming into the building. Visual safety devices. Visual fire alarms and smoke detectors or smoke alarms equipped with visual component are an important part of enhancing public life safety for all occupants of a building. Visual fire and smoke alarms must be on every floor and in every sleeping room of residential buildings.
Can I cut you off there just for a second? For the record, can you provide your name for the secretary?
Stuart Patrick, 7107 Chandler.
Okay. And I know you're giving us a dissertation on the building code, but I can assure you if this application is approved, that they must get a building permit and it must comply with code.
Okay. Now, currently, included in my lease are electricity, water, gas, heat, and hot water, and parking. In the event that laundry facilities are put in the unit, how will that be impacted?
Is that your,
That's a question for the representative.
understood, understood.
And that's that.
Thank you very much. Any question of the delegate? Yeah, so do we have anyone else here in the gallery that wishes to make representation? Thank you very much. Come on forward.
Hi, my name is Penny Ebanks, and I'm in Unit 9 at 107 Chandler. I do have a couple of questions that haven't been answered. I'll try not to repeat what's been said. As far as the parking, I'm a little confused about this, because if we're adding 5 new units and we're reducing the number of spots to 18, that means that we'll have 20 tenant apartments and only 18 spots. So at least 2 people aren't going to have a parking spot. So I'd like an explanation of that, please. And just also in regards to the parking, as construction has gone on in this building over the past year, it's been pretty messy, as you can imagine, as the units get renovated. There's going to be a need for a bin to empty out the basement, because there's a lot of stuff down there that needs to go. And I'm just wondering where that will be placed, if it's going to be placed in the parking lot currently where there are vacant spots. That's where the snow removal, where the snow is pushed by the plows in the winter. So that's a concern. Also, I was wondering about the possibility of a problem with asbestos removal, if indeed there is some down there in the basement, because if they need to bring in a negative air machine, they're generally pump the crap out the windows. And of course, we live above the basement. So in that case, I'm wondering about our safety as far as air quality outside of our units, and even in the building for that matter. Cleanliness, currently we have cleaners coming in every couple of weeks, but during construction of this size, it's going to be a real mess, and I'm hoping that they will make arrangements for frequent cleaning so that we're, again, safe as far as air quality and not having dirt and debris all over the place that we're tracking into our units consistently. And another question about I noticed on the plan that I have from the planner, your senior planner, that there are a number of brand new windows going to be installed in the basement. Some of them it looks to me like some of them will be under where there is currently a balcony. So questions, how are they going to do that? Are they going to remove the balconies? If so, are they going to replace them? Because those windows need to be above grade, and I don't know how that will work, unless I'm misinterpreting where these windows are, but I do have the plan from your office. So that's a question about the windows. I did have a question about adding an additional stairwell down to the basement, but looking at this plan, I don't think that's going to be necessary, but I just would like a confirmation of whether they plan to put an additional stairwell down, because currently we have one that's in the center of the building, and we have an emergency exit at the back door. So just wanted to know if they're going to start drilling through the floor on the first level to go down. Also, will the existing tenants lose water, sewage, heat, or hydro at times during this construction project? How much notice will be given? How long are they allowed to cut off these services? And will we be asked or forced to move out as a result? I think that's about it for me. Thank you. Oh, no, one more question. The gentleman to my left said that he thought the units in the basement would be bachelor and one bedroom, but the floor plan that I have here shows most of these are two-bedroom units, and it appears that there's one bachelor at the back of the building, so I'd like clarification on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the delegate? Okay. Anyone else who would like to assist the committee in their decision? Thank you. Come on forward. Let's hear this gentleman first.
Good morning. Thank you, Councillor. So I'm Mark Balthazar, owner of 107 Chandler. So I can address some of the questions just with regards to parking and laundry and such. So I listed a few things that I've heard, and I can just complement some of the stuff that Mark DeNardis mentioned. So in terms of laundry, so right now we have 4 laundry units, 2 washers, 2 dryers. Right now they're not being used to capacity. 4 new units have been renovated. Those units have been furnished with in-suite laundry. Some of them are stackable, some of them are under-counter in-kitchen units, which are fairly small. They're the size of dishwashers and they fit underneath the counter. So the load on those laundry facilities has decreased. We can keep 2 either in the current space or at the center of the building where there's a stairwell that runs up. There's no stairwell in the basement. And so there's room for laundry facilities there if we need to move it and keep it in the basement. At the center of the building, there's also a significant amount of space for storage. So right now, out of 15 units, there are probably 9 tenants that are using storage. The others are not. And so there's sufficient space to put storage cabinets at the center of the building where the laundry facility is. So there is space to move it. In terms of with the size of the units, there's 2-bedroom units that can go in there. The way it's constructed, so it's concrete construction, and so the foundation walls run basically all the way down to the basement. So the walls are already there. And in terms of fire code, obviously we're gonna, it has to meet code, but to the gentleman's question about walls, the concrete walls actually separate all the units. So the same unit design as in the basement will reflect the units up top. The only difference in the basement is you have the center space that's not being utilized by stairs and other maintenance closets that we have in the other floors. Let's see, size of units, talked about storage. In terms of asbestos and such, there is no asbestos at the moment, but anytime we do significant renovations, we do a designated substance survey just to determine if there are any particular substances that need to be removed. In terms of the balconies and cut windows, the balconies will not be removed. The windows need to be cut to adhere to code in terms of egress. So the windows will be larger. There's more light coming into the building. We've been asked to add bike racks inside the building and outside the building just to provide some other means of bike storage. Also, in terms of parking, half of the parking units are being used today. So there's a surplus right now. There is some issues with tenants storing stolen bikes, actually, on the units, but that's in the LTB right now, and it's been with the Landlord-Tenant Bureau for a number of months, which we're trying to get through. Laundry, parking, snow. In terms of snow, every parking lot deals with snow issues. I mean, this is probably an easier one because it's pretty straightforward. There's no curves. I think that addressed all the questions. If there's any questions from
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any questions of the owner? David?
Oh, yeah, through the chair, I think there was a question about service connection and possible disruption. If you could address that, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we have property management that deals with the building day to day. We give 24 hours notice unless there's a burst pipe or an emergency. So there have been instances, and I know in a few other properties, and perhaps this one as well, where if there is a burst pipe, we do have to shut it down right away, and the plumber, they just have to do that from an emergency standpoint. But for the most part, 24 hours notice is given if we know that there's going to be a significant plumbing upgrade or rearrangement and such, and it typically does not last more than 4 to 6 hours, and then it's put back on.
Again, David?
Yeah, just to follow up to that, so more so I was meaning with respect to the renovations that you intend to do in the basement. Will that cause any service disruption to the existing tenants in the other units? Or?
No, not hydro. Plumbing, there may be hours, where plumbing is down because you have to, run new plumbing stacks. But from a cost standpoint and a ability to use the services, no.
Thank you.
Brian?
Yeah, I appreciate the comments from other delegates pertaining to concerns with building code, construction, but if this is approved, there are rules that have to be followed. What I'm particularly focused on is just what we're looking relief from is the requirement of having 23 parking spots to 18. And I'm just keen to find out, with the current leases that are in place, how many parking spaces are currently committed?
There's probably 10 or 12. Like, it's not full. It's not full. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Secretary, is it out of order to allow a resident to come back again? There's a gentleman who would like to speak twice. Okay, we're going to have to keep moving this forward. I'm going to allow it. Let's be quick.
Just one quick thing about the laundry. If the laundry facilities are maintained, like we keep the current laundry facilities, can we look at also getting hot water? We have no hot water for the laundry facilities at all, and it's quite frustrating.
Okay.
I would be very appreciative of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I do have a couple of quick questions for staff because we're here to deal with a parking variance. I'm sorry, sir. We're going to have to move this forward. We've heard, we understand. I've got 3 or 4 submissions here that deal with the same issues. Okay, we're going to move this thing forward. Yeah, if this gets approved, it will have to comply with building code. So we're going to move this thing forward. Can I get a motion from one of the members to put this on the floor?
I'll make that motion.
Brian?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion? Yep.
Through the chair, I just have a question for staff regarding the parking, and this is just a point of clarification in case anybody who's in attendance is wondering the same question. So currently, we're looking to approve a site that would have 18 parking spaces. So of those 18, 2 of those will be visitor spots. 1 of those will be an accessible spot. So in actuality, you have 15 spaces that are truly unit assigned, and therefore we're adding 5 more units that would not have their own parking space. Is that correct?
Through the chair? Oh, sorry. I did not actually work on this plan. I do work on them a lot, so I'll do what I can to answer these questions here. So you're correct, the 23 are required, 18 are being provided, and 16 will be for the tenants, and 2 will be for visitor. That's not unusual to get a parking reduction of this style. One thing I would like to ask actually of the applicant is that those spaces that aren't having a parking space, are those units going to be unbundled parking?
Could we get an answer?
Can you repeat the question?
I'm asking it that the parking spaces, sorry, the units that don't have a parking space, I'm just wondering if those units will have unbundled parking from the cost of the unit, where they don't have to pay for a parking space. I noticed that someone came in today and said they're paying for a parking space. I'm just wondering if those people that are living in those units don't have to pay for a parking space.
The current tenants don't pay for parking spaces.
Okay.
Yeah, so those any new tenants.
Yes.
We do charge for parking.
Okay, so those, what I'm asking is those people that are coming, will they know that they don't have a parking space available to them? Because you're having 20 units, but only 18 parking spaces, of which 2 will be for visitor?
Yeah.
So those spaces that aren't allocated to anything, do they know going in before they're signing anything that they
Yes.
don't have a parking space?
Yeah, absolutely. So once we hit parking capacity, and this is similar to other properties that we have, then the pool of tenants kind of shrinks because, if they're looking for parking, then that building is likely not for them. But the profile of tenants that we've had in that building to date and new tenants are relying on transit. They have bikes, as I mentioned, with 20 some odd units, we're using 10 to 12 right now.
That's perfect, thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Oh, just through the chair, thank you, staff, for the explanations. So, thank you.
I have one quick question for staff. I noted in the planning report done by the applicant, they were mentioning that they appear to be above the density allowed by the official plan, but I believe there is a clause in the OP that you don't measure density on a site-by-site basis. Could you clarify?
Yes, Chair. There is a policy in the official plan that the density or number of dwelling units per hectare is measured across the entire land use designation. It does not apply to individual sites, and so that density provision, excuse me, is meant to apply in terms of guidelines for the preparation of community or secondary plans.
Thank you. I'm just going to make a couple of comments as well at this time. I've read all of the letters of concern by the residents. The 2 that got my attention initially were storage and laundry, but I'm satisfied today from what I've heard from the applicant and the owner that those will be dealt with. I personally think this is a good application. We have seen parking variances similar like this before. In fact, I drove to the site 3 times, and the most cars I ever saw during the weekend and during the week was 6 cars. So I have a good feeling that with the unredacted parking spaces, that parking will not be an issue. So when the time comes, I will be fully supporting the application. Any other comments at this time? David?
Just through the chair, just to ride off of what Scott was saying, I think that this is an appropriate reduction given the transit-supportive nature and the location of the property, and given, the observations that and statements by the owner that the site, because of the tenants that typically occupy the site, not all of which have personal vehicles, some come to rely on transit, and the area is well served by GRT. I think it's appropriate in this case to allow this reduction given the nature of the site and its location. So that's all I have to say in addition to Scott. So,
Brian?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I agree. My concerns were related to laundry, but I feel they've been addressed by the applicant and the representative. So at this time, I'm prepared to make a motion to...
We have a motion on the floor, mover and a seconder, so all in favor? That motion is carried. All right. Our next application this morning is A-2023-017 at 854 Dune Village Road. I'd ask staff to introduce the application and the applicant to come to the microphone.
Excuse me. Thank you, Chair. This is a minor variance application for 854 Dune Village Road. 2 variances, one for an increase in the maximum permitted floor space ratio from 0.6 to 0.75, and a rear yard reduction of 6.4 from 7.5. This is to facilitate the development of a site with the multiple dwellings, stacked townhouses having 24 dwelling units, in accordance with the site plan application currently under review. Staff have reviewed the variances in light of the 4 tests the Planning Act finds that they meet all 4 and is recommending approval.
Thank you. Has the applicant agent reviewed the staff report, which is favorable, and if, are you in support?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Trevor Hawkins from MHBC on behalf of the owner. With me is Richard Perron from ABA, and we've read their staff report and concur with the recommendation.
Okay, are there any members of the gallery here in opposition to the application? Seeing none, do we have any questions of the applicant at this time? Any questions of staff at this time? Go ahead, David.
Just a quick question through the chair for staff, just to confirm. It's more a point of information. The applicants will need a new road permit in this case, given the increase in density, or is the idea to utilize the existing road access as it's constructed? Just more of a point of clarification. So.
Through the chair, was that a question for staff or the applicant? Sorry.
That was a question for staff.
Oh, okay.
And if not, then the applicant, if they need to chime in, but yeah. But no, directed at staff, sorry, yeah.
Well, a permit won't be needed, but it will come through and we'll make sure there's a proper setback from the intersection through the site plan process.
Yeah, through the chair, that was more my concern, is whether there'd be any issue with the site triangle, but also, you know, is there any changes to that curb cut that would be needed, so.
No, from what I see, it won't impact the corner visibility triangle at all. We'll make sure it's out of that as well.
Okay, great, that's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you, staff, yeah.
Does the applicant have anything more to add before we consider your application?
Nothing further to add.
Thank you. Just in terms of comments, I think this is a great application. In fact, the rear yard that's being recommended is actually acting as a side yard, and it appears to be a very well-designed site. So can I get a mover?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Thank you, Brian.
And second,
Okay.
yeah.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, our next application is A 2023-018 at 11 Centennial Road. Can staff introduce the application and recommendation, and the applicant come forward?
Yes, minor variance application for 11 Centennial Road, requesting relief from a rear yard setback and a side yard setback for 4 existing accessory buildings at the rear of the property. So they would like to legalize the location of those 4 existing buildings, so the rear yard setback of 2.7 rather than 7.5, and a side of 0.6 rather than 1.5 meters. They have submitted a site plan application to facilitate the location on an approved plan, as well as this will be rectified through building permit. Staff have reviewed the variances in light of the 4 tests. The Planning Act finds that it meets all 4 and is recommending approval.
Thank you. Has the applicant reviewed the staff report and recommendation, and are you in support?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Steve Jefferson. I'm a planner with Case Smart Associates in the district. On behalf of the owner, I have reviewed the report and I support the recommendations.
Thank you very much. This time, is there any member of the gallery in opposition or wish to provide comments to the committee? Seeing none. So do you members have any questions of either the applicant or staff at this time?
I do, Mr. Chair. So those buildings are already there. This is just to legalize the structures that are currently in place, just for my understanding.
Yes, that is correct. It is legalizing the existing garages.
David?
Actually, through the chair, just to follow up, I'm recalling from the staff report that one of the garages is intended to be altered, that there's an encroachment that's occurring, unless I have the wrong application here. That's a question for staff, sorry.
It's back. No. Sorry. Yes, so one of the garages does encroach, and it will be required to be cut back, so a building permit will need to be issued for that, and that will rectify that situation.
Okay. And just to follow through with that, there was a related condition to that effect, was there not?
There's not a condition attached to the recommendation, so the variance would need to come into effect for them to be able to get a building permit to be 0.6 meters from the lot line.
Okay, great. Thank you, staff.
Thank you, staff. I had a similar question about whether we should be imposing conditions. Question, has the building permit been applied for the change?
I am not aware, maybe the applicant can advise whether they've made application.
Can you help us with that?
Yes, Mr. Chair. A building permit has not been applied for yet. We are doing the concurrent site plan process at this time, so once this decision is made and the site plan decision is made as well, then the owner would be able to apply for the building permit.
So again, back to staff. Tina, are you satisfied that no conditions are necessary for this application?
Staff is satisfied that no conditions need to be imposed. We would like the variance to be able to come into effect so that site plan approval could be granted and then a building permit could be applied for and issued.
Okay. Any other questions? Can I get a mover?
I'll make the motion, but just before, just for my clarity though as well, with the comments from Metrolinx, how does that affect the application? Or there's just more of a warning?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it is a standard Metrolinx comment. So any properties within that 300 meters of the rail corridor could be subject to their decision to act on your property. So it's just a standard comment. Yep.
Thank you. I'll make that motion.
Second the motion.
Thank you. Motion by Brian and seconded by David. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Our next application is A 2023-019 at 100 and 102 Waterloo Street. Could staff introduce the application and the applicant come forward?
Thank you, Chair. This is a minor variance application for 100 to 102 Waterloo Street. It is a variance to allow a front yard setback of 1 meter instead of the minimum required 6.28 meters. And this setback was determined as a result of the REINS regulation in the zoning bylaw. There's also a variance to allow portions of the proposed building to be located within the driveway visibility triangles. Staff have reviewed the variance in light of the 4 tests of Planning Act and finds that it meets all 4 and is recommending approval. And it's subject to the issuance of a tree preservation enhancement plan prior to the issuance of a demolition or building permit. The reason for the condition is that the applicant has advised they're no longer following through with the consent application, and that condition was required as part of that previous application because there are shared trees on the property lines or adjacent to the property lines, and staff wants to make sure that those trees are protected through the construction or demolition of the existing and proposed buildings. That condition is in accordance with our council policy, and so staff again is recommending approval of the variances. They meet the 4 tests subject to the condition.
Thank you. Could the applicant or agent advise if they've reviewed the staff report and recommendations, and do you agree?
Okay. Sorry, I had a death in the family. We've been dealing with it, so I have not read any of the reviews, although I agree with what she said. The visibility triangles, which are on the property. Actually, the property is a bit strange because there's a bit of land in front of it because the street sort of bends, and really I don't think the visibility triangles will be an issue. As for tree preservation, we're not planning on cutting down any of the trees. Most of the trees are on the right-hand side of the property line. There are some on the left, but those ones are further back, and we will be protecting those trees. We have no desire to lose them. As for right now, it's a semi-detached dwelling on one property. Now, according to the registered plan, it was 2 lots originally. They've converted it to a single lot, but there was still a duplex on there. The duplex actually did not conform to the center line that was originally divided the lots. And the original building sits forward past the property line more than half a meter. So we tend to alter that. We'll push the building back a bit. But because of the existing conditions, we're limited as to how far back we can go. I know there was a previous application, but it was actually started by the previous owner and handed to the next owners, the people who own it now. And they found that it was really, it was like a giant bunker being built. So we decided to alter it and make it sort of similar to what it is, only a bit bigger. The buildings right now actually should be condemned. Foundation problems, sewer problems, none of the floors even match because it was built over time.
Anyway, to cut to the chase, you're satisfied with the staff recommendation?
Yeah,
You'll have
we are.
another chance to comment because we're going to hear from anybody in the gallery.
No, that's fine.
Is that fair?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm in agreement.
Okay. Anyway, for the record, we do have letters both in support and opposed to this application that the committee has read. So I will ask now if there anybody in the gallery that wishes to comment or provide comments to the committee. I expect to see some, but there are none, so that's good news. Do we have any questions, committee, of either the applicant or staff? David?
Through the chair, more just a comment. I've reviewed the, I guess the comments that were in opposition. It seemed a few of the neighbors were concerned about that street setback, that the proposed setback wasn't meeting what the zoning bylaw otherwise calls for. Driving by the site, you know, you've got an encroachment issue and you're fixing that through this variance. And in all honesty, in my opinion, pushing the front wall of the building 1 meter back from the property line, it actually, to me, still would maintain a consistent streetscape given, I guess, the location of, especially the houses that are to the north. And if you look at the houses across the street, many of them don't meet that required building line setback, I'll call it, from the front property line to begin with. So on that basis, I'm in support of the application. I think it will help fix an existing situation and make for a couple of new dwellings that would be consistent with the neighborhood from a setback perspective. So I'll be in support.
Okay, any other questions or?
No, I'll speak in favor as well. Like, upon reading the application, I was a bit concerned, even with the letters of opposition. But then taking a look at the street and how it is a bit unique as far as setbacks and how it jogs, I think this application will solve a lot of issues and improve that spot and fix the encroachment. So I'm in favor of this application, and I'm prepared to make a motion to put this on the floor to vote.
Okay, Brian, moved. Seconded by David. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next application is A 2023-020 at 66 Fallowfield Drive. Could staff introduce the application and the applicant come forward?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is a minor variance application for 66 Fallowfield Drive. This is an application to allow some exterior renovations to the existing detached dwelling. So the side yard setback is required to be 4.5. The dwelling is proposed to be 4 to allow some new exterior cladding and a small window bump-out addition. And then at the back, they are proposing a new screened-in gazebo on top of the existing rear deck, so a setback of 3 meters instead of 4.5 meters. Staff have reviewed the variances in light of the forecasts of the Planning Act and is recommending approval without conditions.
Thank you. Has the applicant reviewed the staff report?
I've reviewed the staff report, and I support the conclusions.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in the gallery opposed or make comments to this application? Seeing none, I have a quick question for staff, and I'm not suggesting we modify the staff recommendation, but realistically, we're asking for a variance of 3 meters to allow both the addition and the gazebo, correct?
That is correct.
And again, I'm not suggesting we reword the resolution, but I think in future, all you need is a 3-meter exterior side yard here. Any questions from the committee for either the applicant or staff? Seems pretty straightforward. Can I get a motion?
Through the chair, I'll put forward a motion to approve with the condition.
Moved by David. Second by Brian. All in favor? And that is carried. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Our next application is A 2023-021 at 6 Cumberland Place. Can staff introduce the application, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is a minor variance application for 6 Cumberland Place. It is a reduction of a side yard requirement from 1.2 to 0.7 to allow the construction or permit a covered deck from the side lot line. Staff have reviewed the variance in light of the forecasts of the Planning Act and is recommending approval.
Thank you. And Mr. Applicant, have you reviewed the staff recommendation? Thank you. Anyone in the gallery opposed or wishes to make comments to the committee? Seeing none, I think this is a pretty straightforward application, but I will ask the members if they have any questions or comments.
Just a
David?
quick question through the chair for staff. For clarification, Tina, did you say 0.7 or 0.9 meter was the setback?
I meant to say 0.7 meters, so if I said 0.9, it was meant to be 0.7.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Moved by David. Seconded by Brian. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Our next application is A 2023-022 at 91 Shanley Street. Can staff introduce the application and the applicant come forward?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is a minor variance application for 91 Shanley Street. The applicant would like to construct or erect an additional dwelling unit detached in the rear yard. The dwelling unit would have a flat roof, and so the maximum height for a flat roof is 3 meters, and they would have 3.6 meters, so a variance is required. Staff have reviewed the variance in light of the forecasts of the Planning Act and finds that it meets all four, subject to, prior to the issuance of a demolition or building permit, that there is a pre-preservation enhancement plan to minimize the impacts of, again, vegetation and trees that potentially could be in shared ownership. So staff have modified the condition to be specific to the shared ownership tree as shown on the site plan dated December 19, 2022. And so staff again have reviewed the variance in light of the forecasts, finds that it meets all four subject to the condition of the tree preservation enhancement plan.
Thank you. Has the applicant reviewed the staff report and specifically the conditions?
Yes, I have, and I have no concerns with the report.
Thank you. I actually have one question of staff. I drove by the site to have a look, and I believe there is an existing building there now. So I'm wondering how we can do any root pruning, et cetera, if the demolition has to happen first before the building permit. The way it's worded, the condition, all of that stuff needs to be done before any permit is issued. I'm concerned about timing.
The condition is always done prior to demolition or building permit, so that there's no disruption of the site in advance of dealing with the trees.
Okay, and the applicant understands what they need to do?
No, but I'll figure it out. I'm not a professional in this area, apologies.
Okay.
I would suggest talking to our environmental planners, and they can advise you what information they need in order to declare that condition.
Thank you. I figured there's people that know this stuff that can help me.
Does the committee have any questions of staff or the applicant? Seeing none, I'm just assuming there's no one in the gallery opposed to this? Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Brian moves in favor of the staff recommendation.
And second the motion.
Seconded by David. All in favor? Carried. Good luck.
Thank you.
Our next application is a minor variance, A 2023-023 at 202 Brightup Street. Could staff introduce the application and the applicant come forward?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is a minor variance application for a property at 202 Brightup Street. The application is essentially to recognize and legalize, a multiple dwelling having 5 dwelling units, whereas the 4 dwelling units is legal nonconforming. The application has been reviewed in light of the 2 tests as it relates to permission for legal nonconforming uses, and there are 2 conditions that have been requested by Metrolinx. So again, staff have reviewed the application, finds that it meets the 2 tests, and is recommending approval, and Metrolinx has required 2 conditions.
Thank you, Tina. Has the applicant reviewed the staff report and recommendations, specifically the conditions?
Hi there. Yes, I have reviewed the report and the 2 conditions by Metrolinx.
Are you satisfied with those conditions?
Yes, that works. Yes.
Okay. Anyone in the gallery in opposition to this application? Okay, seeing none, anyone have questions of staff or the applicant?
I have one. So in order to make this from, through you, the chair, my apologies, to make this from legal non-conforming to legal, do the units that are currently there have to meet code, or they are able to stay the way they are, like no changes are?
No changes are needed. They meet code.
David?
Through the chair, just to write off of Brian's statement, and this is to staff, to clarify, the legal non-conforming status still remains despite adding the 5th unit, just a point of clarification, and maybe for the applicant's information as well. Yeah. Okay.
So the legal nonconforming status relates to the 4 units. So a 4-unit multiple dwelling is legal nonconforming in this employment zone. The applicant would like to legalize the 5th unit, so it would become legal with this application.
Yep, go ahead, David.
There, oh, now it worked.
Okay. I have just a couple of comments before we consider the motion. I have a problem with the 2 conditions being recommended by Metrolinx. I've had a problem with them on other applications, and I understand the applicant is in favor of the conditions, but I just don't think they're necessary for something that's there already. That's my feeling. I've also discussed this with staff. I have no issue at all with the application, but I do, based on my planning experience, consider this to be a change in use, not an enlargement of use, under a different section of the Planning Act. David, you might figure this one out too, 45-2A2 instead of 45-2A1, but I'm happy to leave it the way it is because staff are satisfied. But I just wanted to put that on the record again, that I consider this to be a change, not an enlargement, because the building's not getting any bigger. Can I get at least a motion on the floor to discuss this?
I'll make that motion.
Brian moved.
Second the motion.
Second by David. Any other comments or issues to consider? Again, I want to put it forward. I think we should be moving this resolution without the 2 conditions, which would mean a modification to the recommendation.
Through the chair, could we maybe get staff to comment on possible removal of those conditions. I understand these are conditions that a public agency has asked for, and what their thoughts are on that. So.
So staff have included the conditions because Metrolinx has requested them, so staff automatically puts those conditions in the report. It's not up to staff to determine the appropriateness of agency conditions where they do have some authority.
Okay, any other comments or on this particular resolution? Just for the clarity, the resolution on the books right now is to approve the enlargement of legal non-conforming use subject to 2 conditions by Metrolinx. We have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? 2 in favor, and I'm opposed. Motion carries. Okay, moving along, our next application is B 2023-005, Fairway Road North at Woolner Trail. It is a consent for easement. If we could get staff to introduce the application and the applicant to come forward.
Yes, Chair, this is an application for consent for a property at Fairway Road North and Woolner Trail. It is requesting consent for an easement for servicing purposes. Staff have reviewed the easement location and are satisfied with its size and configuration and are recommending approval subject to a number of conditions. The site is ultimately proposed to be developed for a secondary school, proposed to open in September 2025. The applicant is getting their plans in order in terms of being able to make formal applications in the future.
Thank you. Has the applicant reviewed the staff recommendation?
Yes, sir. We have reviewed and we're satisfied.
Thank you. Any questions, or sorry, I should say, I don't believe there's anyone in the gallery opposed. Okay, so any questions of staff or the applicant? I just had one quick question of staff, just on prematurity. I know you mentioned that this is related to the future potential school here. Normally, we deal with consents for easements when we're dealing with a site plan application when we know where services are going. Are there any risks to approving this in the location?
Our engineering staff have reviewed the application and are satisfied with the size and configuration and note that it would be appropriate to approve at this time. They will review as part of the site plan application, but as I stated, the applicant is trying to get their plans formalized to be able to make that application, and so knowing that they have this easement will help them formalize those plans.
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up then to the applicant. What are your plans in terms of timing for the application?
As soon as possible.
Excellent. Okay, any other comments or questions from the committee? Seeing none, can I get a motion on the floor?
Motion to approve the application.
Moved by David.
Second.
Seconded by Brian. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you.
And finally, we have a consent application B 2023-006 at 21 Nelson Avenue. Could staff introduce the application and the recommendation?
Yes, this is a consent application for 21 Nelson Avenue. The applicant would like to sever a parcel of land for a new dwelling, single detached dwelling or duplex dwelling. The lot would have a width of 50 meters, a depth of 38 meters, and a lot area of 570 square meters. Staff have reviewed the consent application in light of all policies and finds that it meets all those policies in our provincial, regional, and city plans, and is recommending approval subject to a number of conditions.
Thank you. Has the applicant reviewed the staff recommendation?
Yes, I have, Mr. Chairman. My name is Sam Head. I'm with the firm of Dryden Smith and Head Planning Consultants in Kitchener, and it's nice to appear before the new committee. I haven't been here for a while. My son used to chair the committee some years ago, and I see we got 3 new faces. Well, welcome to the committee. We're looking at creating a single-family lot. That's all we're doing, creating a single-family lot. It complies with all the policies in the zoning bylaw. I've reviewed the regional comments, the GRC and MTO, and they have no concerns or conditions. I've also reviewed the staff comments and conditions. I have one issue that I want to bring up with the committee, and that is condition number 11. This is a single-family lot. It's not subject to site plan control, and all of the items listed in this condition relate to basically site plan control that we would normally apply to a project of more than 10 units. So I question whether that condition should apply to a single-family lot. So I think it's in contravention of the Planning Act, Section 41, and I think it's in conflict with Bill 23. So I suggest that that condition be removed, or take the reference out of site plans, because it's not a site plan, it's basically a single-family lot with conditions. The other conditions I can address. The spatial separation for the building, I understand that there's construction issues close to an existing house, but I'm concerned about that the one condition with the agreement and everything. That's extra cost, extra time for me, it's extra money for the person that's going to build a house, because all these conditions take time to satisfy. There's surveys and legal fees and so on. So this is, I think, it's just an extra question, that condition that I don't think needed to apply, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions of the applicant or staff? David?
Through the chair, if staff could perhaps address Mr. Head's statements regarding condition number 11 and the validity of maintaining that condition. So.
Yes, council has approved a tree management policy, and so where there are trees in shared shared ownership or could be impacted by development on properties, it's a standard condition that staff require the tree preservation enhancement plan just to make sure that there are no impacts to trees on shared or abutting lands. Again, it's a council policy. It is, it's not a site plan. It's not part of Section 41, and it's not. We're not requiring a site plan as per Bill 23. This is just a tree management plan as per council policy.
Let's follow up, David.
Through the chair, I just want to and thank you for that answer. And to clarify, so therefore, this development, or this consent rather, it doesn't trigger, it will have no means of triggering site plan control under Section 41. Okay, thank you.
I had a follow-up both to staff and the applicant. I was out there on the weekend and didn't notice any trees on this site, on the severed parcel. So I'm wondering why the condition was imposed.
Mr. Chairman, it'll be easy to fill. There's no trees.
Okay, thank you. Brian, follow-up?
Question from the chair. Are we able to amend and just remove that, that condition?
We can do whatever we want. We can amend or remove, absolutely. I just had a quick question for the applicant. The dwelling on the retained parcel looks ripe for redevelopment as well. Are there any plans for potential 3 lots here rather than 2?
Not at this point, Mr. Chairman. To make that condition simple, you could just revise it to say a tree management plan, period. And get rid of all the other agreement and all the rest of that stuff. If the city's concerned about the trees, I'll give them a tree management plan, which is basically the survey plan with no trees shown on it. Okay. So if you just call it a tree management plan, I'll be happy and go away and fulfill all the rest of the conditions.
Okay. Just to follow up to staff, I know this property is not covered by REINS. Are the setbacks that are being proposed by the applicant, specifically the 4.5-meter exterior side yard, are they accurate?
Yes, they are.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to make a couple of comments to my committee members. I have a problem with condition 11 as well. I would actually like it to be removed. I spend time to go out to see sites, and when I don't see trees, I don't see the need. If we were dealing with the retained parcel, I agree there are trees there, but we're not. So when the time comes, my preference, and it's up to you guys, would be to move the staff recommendation without condition 11. I'll leave it up to you. Could I get a motion?
Through the chair, I'll make a motion to approve the application, but amended to exclude condition number 11 in this case.
Can I get a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried with the removal of condition 11. Thanks very much.
Great to see you, Gabe.
Can I get a motion to adjourn? Brian, motion to adjourn. David?
Second that motion.
All in favor?